What is good, everyone? Welcome to the channel. Today we finally have some good news, the good news that we have all been waiting for. And although it's not perfect, it is news that Japan is moving towards opening up and letting in more foreign students and business travelers. And the details of that came in a speech by the Prime Minister Kishida tonight. It is February 17th, Japan time, so it's just starting to be February 17th in other parts of the world because Japan is generally ahead in terms of time zone. So I'm going to read off some of the details of that speech and the details of what is actually going to be happening with the border situation. There are some changes with quarantine, there are some changes with how many people are allowed to enter, and obviously there are some changes in who can actually enter the country. I don't have all of these changes memorized, so I am going to read off of my phone, and I will provide the links to where I'm getting my information in the description of the video below. So basically, again, February 17th, Prime Minister Kishida announced that there will be more students and business travelers allowed into Japan from the 1st of March. And this is basically the first opening of Japan to business travelers and basically anyone with a foreign passport and a visa and, a right to be in Japan through that since November. Basically at the beginning of December, the borders closed down because of the Omicron variant spreading in Japan. We have passed the peak, at least that's what they're saying. We've passed the peak of Omicron cases, and as such, with cases going down, and they promised an announcement in February about the border situation. Because of those factors, they are announcing that from March 1st, they are going to be easing restrictions. So, here are the basics. And again, I say it's not perfect news, but it's good news in general. They will raise the daily limit on incoming travelers from 3,500 to 5,000. That does include Japanese workers who are posted abroad with companies. So again, it's not an announcement only for foreigners. Basically, Kishida said they'll take into account the situation in other countries, and that relates to the border policies as such for what country you are coming from, and I will get into those details in a moment. It will depend on what country you're coming from, like the strictness of the entrance policies. And we have to remember that whatever changes are coming, this is in a way against the will of the Japanese people, because there have been a number of polls in January and February that have basically said that the Japanese public in general supports keeping the borders closed and not letting in too many people. In fact, the most recent poll quoted in this article that I'm reading from Nikkei Asia, they're quoting NHK's poll, which said that 57% of respondents said the government should keep this stricter border policy, compared to 32% who said it should be loosened. And actually those numbers are a lot better than they used to be. It's more in favor of loosening the restrictions than before. The numbers were actually quite more like 80%, 20% in some past polls. So, just quickly, the basic rundown, the most important points of Kishida's speech are the following. There will be a shortening of quarantine to 3 days if you have a negative on your corona test on the 3rd day of quarantine. 2. No quarantine if you are triple vaccinated, meaning your 2 original vaccination shots plus 1 booster. So triple vax, and you're coming from a quote-unquote non-high risk country. Details on that are still spotty. That's something that you should look for in the future, and I will try to do an update on that. Number 3, the government will keep continuing mandatory facility quarantine for high risk countries. And again, what's high risk and what's low risk, those details forthcoming. Number 4, unfortunately, still no tourists. So if you're thinking of coming to Japan as a tourist, we are still not opening here for tourists. And I honestly, at this point, it's going to be months. It's not going to be weeks. It's not going to be days. It's going to be months before something like that is going to happen. I mean, Japan has held off this long. There's no real reason to believe that they're suddenly going to open up to tourism anytime soon. Number 5, all people who enter into Japan will still have to do a COVID test with a negative result within 72 hours before boarding the plane, and you will get a COVID test at the airport, which you would hope that would be negative. And number 6, all of these new policies take place starting March 1st. So as I said, it's February 17th today, so until February 28th, no change in terms of letting in new visa holders or anything else. It's still the 3,500 entries as opposed to the 5,000 entries. So from March 1st, that is when it is going to change. So this will be good news for some, but again, that is still a trickle. And there was already a response from the Japanese Business Association, which said that that little bit of an increase is not going to have any real positive economic effect. And I tend to agree. That's 5,000 entries. That's not very many, but it is still a step in the right direction. This means we're coming more in line with most of the developed countries that have their policies in place that are much, much more lenient than Japan's. But again, it's a step in the right direction, and I hope this is good news for a lot of people. And of course, we're looking at the April start of the school year. So if you're a student who's looking forward to getting into Japan to start your career as a student and do your exchange program and begin your research or whatever it is that you're coming to do in academia here, it's good news because you're probably going to have somewhat of a priority, because back in November, like, they tried to bring in more students in that opening up before Omicron closed things down again. So it looks like Japan is doing the same thing again this time. So if you have one of those already valid student visas that you could enter on, fingers crossed, no guarantees, but hopefully that means that you're going to be able to get in line and actually make it for the April start of the school year. As someone who teaches in a university myself, it's been really weird to not see the exchange students on campus in the past few years. And so it will be nice to have our foreign exchange students back, and I'm looking forward to that on a personal level. So good luck to all of you, and hopefully this means that it's just a step that is going to snowball and continue to get better to let more and more people in who have those valid visas, who want to start their life in Japan, and hopefully it's just all good news from here on in. Again, fingers crossed. At any rate, I promise to give further updates, as I've said in the past. This is a really good update. Hopefully they continue to be that way, and thank you for watching this particular update. Again, this is not really the purpose of my channel, to mostly give updates. I've made that a part since the pandemic has been going on, but I really encourage you to check out my other content, because I'm talking about life in Japan from the viewpoint of someone who's been here for many, many years. And if that's of interest to you, I think you should really check out my past content. I've got almost 3 years of content now, so just go back through my old videos, and I put out a new video every single Friday, so look for those as well. I recommend subscribing and hitting that notifications bell for all of my video content, updates about the border situation, and new information about life in Japan. So again, thank you for watching this particular video, and I will catch you next time. Peace.